Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. Dear Andrew Parker, I've now submitted 2 public appeals to you to have the attacks against me stopped. However, they haven't stopped in the least. Last night I was again tortured. I had intense microwave beams shot into my body and especially my head. It seems to be the case that the work that what's claimed to be an AI computer by Dr. Robert Duncan and Brian Tudor, 2 whistleblowers, that this supercomputer happens to interface with my brain non-stop at night. As soon as I close my eyes, but only in bed and only in my bedroom, I start having light flashes, etc., etc., exactly as what one would expect if a microwave beam is actually interacting with my optical nerve. Now this happens in a very systematic fashion, and it's now at the end of a very, very, very long story that looks very much like a human experimentation program, and I ask you to please stop. I have got reason to believe that I have been implanted or infected with self-growing, self-assembling parts that can be used to pull this off. I don't really want to go into the details now because I have done so before. I ask you, dear Mr. Andrew Parker, to at last have the capability, the initiative to have me removed from the list that you placed me on. And I also ask you to please, maybe if you're not capable yourself, get in touch with Mr. Alex Younger, who's the head of SIS, otherwise known as MI6, and have now the experiments and the assaults against me stopped. People who have been stalking me in Britain have since turned up here in Switzerland. I do recognize them. And also it was essentially your agents who put on a little street theatre spectacle spelling out German military mind control before my 3rd hearing in London. And given that they did that just behind St. James's Square, I am 100% confident it was your agents. So you know what's going on, and I ask you to please get on the case and actually have these experiments stopped. We know now what you're doing. It's to do with brain mapping, brain interference. A lot of the parts of the program have been leaked. It is to control, disrupt, and mostly disrupt, to be honest, the human brains, the brains of people you don't like, or the brains of people you want to control. And that, Mr. Parker, is a crime against humanity. You are doing, again, testing on unsuspecting civilians, like your agency has been shown to have done in the past, like other agencies have been shown to have done repeatedly. But what is different now, Mr. Parker, is that the victims of your agency, including myself, have been begging for these attacks to be stopped publicly on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for years now. And you have been absolutely incapable or totally uncaring about that. Now, that in itself adds an extra level of criminality, because now it's public. It shows your utter and complete disregard for the public opinion, for public perception of law and order, for sure, because as you know, as much as public perceptions can have a chilling effect, they can also have an encouraging effect. And I would like to talk to you, Mr. Parker, about that encouraging effect that you're having, especially under the view of national security, which for professional reasons you should care a great deal about. Now, as a systems analyst and as a high-energy physicist, Mr. Parker, may I just explain to you the utter idiocy of your strategy of continuing with the attacks, with the human experimentation on the British civilian population, and also on myself, because, as I said, you're still involved, exactly under this umbrella of national security. And I have tried to make that point to you discreetly as part of the evidence that I've submitted to my court case. I've submitted a CD on which I have already made a statement about this, but now, given that you don't seem to get it, let me make it publicly again. Why is it not just a humanitarian crisis that you're attacking your own civilian population in the UK, Mr. Parker, not you personally, but your agency? Why is that such a big issue, not just from a humanitarian point of view? Because you can argue that the fact that you're microwaving single moms, that fact that you shoot their brains to pieces with microwaves, is not that big a deal, as maybe men of your background might argue. But it is not just single moms we're dealing with, Mr. Parker. We're dealing with complex human systems here. And I, in the first instance, understand your ignorance about these matters, Mr. Parker, even as the head of the MI5, which is rather shocking. But now let me explain to you, as someone who has a degree in high energy physics and who looks a great deal into complex human systems, let me now spell out what doom your strategy actually spells for your own country if you continue with this. It has to do with the fact that you are dealing with a complex human environment of multiple actors who are highly networked. Now, the networking in the olden days didn't spread very far. These days, the networking is vast. The interconnectedness is incredibly high due to the internet, due to YouTube, due to Twitter. So, any new victim will very quickly find out what is happening to them by just Googling their symptoms and Googling electromagnetic harassment, microwave weapons, targeted individuals, gang stalking, and all the other stuff, remote neural monitoring. It's now all public. Within 2 hours, they can also get through to technical documents and actually convince themselves that this is all real, this is really happening. Now, what that means for national security, Mr. Parker, is that any other foreign power can literally assault any one of your high value, strategically important citizens who maybe work in the defense industry, who maybe work for the Ministry of Defense themselves, who maybe work for you or are working in other highly sensitive areas. Now, if this person is attacked with microwaves, at first they might not know who they get attacked by. If the attack is done such as to spoof an attack by your own agents for maybe reasons that are to do with something that happened at work and that might be related to, an actual genuine work effort within the UK, then this person can be tricked into thinking your agents are microwaving them as a retaliation, as threat, or whatever. Right? Now, why is that really, really, bad and really good? Well, very, very important to keep in mind. It's because by this means, a foreign power can actually blackmail and trick, right, your most important people, or people who are actually strategically important but are too low down the organization order to actually be noticed by you as such, right, into actually doing acts against the UK. And at the same time, they know that the police are so corrupted on this topic that they will not investigate microwave attacks. This is now public. So the only thing a foreign power has to do is attack somebody really important with microwave weapons, maybe spoof your own agents, spoof a UK internal reason for the attack, intimidate this person until they actually understand that yes, they are being microwaved, right? If this person then Googles, they will find out from all the public pleas from all the victims over the years that you had a decade-long criminal cover-up about this matter. So there's no point going to the police. So they will not go to the police. They will not come forward, especially not if they're thinking you're doing it. Now, after this routine has already been established, all a foreign power needs to do is then push something that they want done, maybe a backdoor, maybe the installation of a software, maybe the modification of a software, spoof reasons, and use these microwave weapons as the most terrifying aspect to actually blackmail a person into it. Right? Now you can think of all the many other ways that this can be done. There could also be, the remote brain interference and this and that, and you can, try to rewire people's brains and convince themselves that they should be doing something, right? But this is the most important because it's the simplest. You see, the more sophisticated it gets, the harder it is to spoof you and your agents. But this is the most important aspect. So what you are doing, Mr. Parker, is you're publicly advertising that you and your agents, sorry, I should say your agency, not you personally, are attacking civilians left, right and center. You are advertising it publicly, indirectly, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, by not stopping the attacks against the civilians. And you've been advertising this for years. Now, what you're actually opening yourself up to, by doing exactly that, and by making it clear to your own population that they are not going to be helped if they are attacked with electromagnetic weapons, is that you actually advertise a big fat blackmailing opportunity to every other foreign power who maybe wants to subvert you. Do you see? And this is now advertising it to a huge number of people. You can try to monitor absolutely every person who Googles, maybe these terms, but if a foreign power actually wants to subvert you, they will cover up the searches of the person who they are putting under pressure. You understand that, don't you? But the bottom line is that you are advertising that this form of attack will not be stopped, it will not be investigated, and none of the public institutions can be approached with this. Do you understand? You're actually building a big fat back door into every single one of your institutions. This could be software for warships, this could be software for airplanes, everything. The only thing someone needs to do is blackmail some of your key programmers with microwave weapons, and they will be helpless. And if they're a bit clever about it and spoof you, right, they will not come forward because they think you're doing it. So they will not come running to you and tell you about it, so you'll not hear about it. And most importantly, this is done, across the country. It could be anybody. You have now barred the public institutions, the easiest way for people to come forward. Do you understand? I find it embarrassing that I have to spell this out to you as the head of so-called military intelligence. But what you are doing by assaulting me, I have got a genuine case, as you know, because you have been attacking me. As you know, I'm not a spy, I'm not a national security threat. I just worked really hard at Oxford and ever since have been trying to improve systems. As you know, you have every single one of my emails going back. You know my history, you've been monitoring me for absolutely years. You know exactly what I say, I do, how I think. And I had a genuine case going to the High Court. Now, we could have had this resolved. We could have had a civilized way of resolving this so that other victims can come forward. We could have repaired this absolute joke that is the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. And we could have had a civilized solution, and we could have stopped this ginormous open backdoor into every single one of your crucial systems. And that was not to happen. Meanwhile, you're mutilating me. I'm of those very few people who can actually flag up these things and drive the system towards more sanity, as you know, because I'm trying to improve these systems. Meanwhile, what you're doing is actually undermining the national security of the United Kingdom, amongst others. But the UK you're in charge of, and you're undermining your own national security. That's the real deal here. Do you understand now? I have put this into my flaming court bundle for you, but now I'm spelling it out. By assaulting your own population with microwave weapons in the first instance, right, and covering it up, what you're doing is you're advertising to foreign powers that the way to subvert you is to just attack whoever they want to attack with microwave weapons, because those victims will not be able to get any help. Do you see? And you've been doing that for decades. So when helicopters do not take off, or maybe when helicopters drop out of the sky, surprisingly, keep in mind that you've been doing this for decades, you idiot. Not you directly, I mean MI5. You idiots, I should put it in plural. So, these things happen, and you have to understand complex systems to understand what a fantastically huge problem this is. And as I put it into my code bundle, and I was trying to get this across to you discreetly, when you're dealing with complex software like what's running on warships, on military helicopters, military aircraft, and the lot, you're dealing with hugely complex software backgrounds. Do you understand? So then once it's done, once the software is in place, especially when it's carrying a lot of legacy software and things like that, and has to interface with many different other, other software pieces and hardware, to then, in retrospect, track down and find out where all these traps, all the triggers, all the backdoors are, is impossible to do. Simply because the complexity goes up highly non-linearly, and you will not have the man hours to actually track it down. Do you understand? You can try to simplify stuff, but it will not be successful if it's another foreign power trying to subvert you. And the same will affect absolutely everything that's manufactured by British arms manufacturers. Do you understand? So helicopters can start dropping out of the sky when you microwave black single moms in Croydon and don't let them go to the police and have the issue resolved. Do you understand? It sounds surprising, but it's only surprising to those who do not know systems analysis of complex systems. So now I ask you again, Mr. Parker, can you please stop the microwave assaults against me, against other scientists who are actually trying to make the UK and other European countries a better place? You know what I'm reading here? Let me refer to this article which appeared in the Telegraph on the 9th of May 2011. It's called Sir John Scarlett, MI6 has no room for mavericks. And it says here, a direct quote by Sir John, MI6, SIS, is one of a very small number of intelligence services capable of doing an effective job, if necessary, almost anywhere in the world. Could you please get in touch with Mr. Alex Younger? And given that SIS is so amazing and they can do an effective job anywhere in the world, can they have the attacks against me stopped here in Switzerland? Please. Would that be possible? Do you think they can pull it off? Possibly can they also take my name off a list that they run themselves and that they have put my name on? You know, that's also your job, by the way, Mr. Parker. Do you think amongst you two you can pull that off? Please, I ask you now for the third time to have the attack stopped, and I ask you to keep in mind the absolutely fantastically devastating national security implications if you continue assaulting innocent women like myself, like Rochelle Finlayson, who's on public record about pretty much the same offences on YouTube. Right? I ask you to stop for the third time now. Please. It is your job. Apart from the fact that this is domestic terrorism, what you're doing yourself, there will be also very soon, and I have reason to believe there already has been, foreign terrorism and foreign sabotage because exactly this. So please, stop the attacks against me. Thank you for listening.